a Harden trade to the Nets, if they do have the big three, if they somehow figure this thing out with Kyrie and the three of them together, do they win the championship this year?
I don't know if they win the championship. I'm still gonna have the Lakers as the prohibitive favorite because I love the chemistry, not just the talent, but the chemistry. But I will say this, with or without Kyrie Irving, this is finals or bust. You don't make it to the finals, it's a failure. You cannot have two juggernauts like James Harden and Kevin Durant together and don't come out of the Eastern Conference. You look at the Philadelphia 76ers, Ben Simmons still can't shoot, refuses to shoot. He's attempted about 2 3-pointers this entire year. The other day, I watched somebody back into the paint about 10 feet away from him and damn to shoot a jump shot. That's problematic for me, even though they've surrounded Joel Embiid with shooters, and he's playing like an MVP. In the case of the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he still has to work on his perimeter game. Come playoff time when defenses get back, collapse, and force you into shooting more perimeter shots, you still got to show me that you can be that dude. And then you got to go up against KD. Fresh off of 18 months after an Achilles tear, your first 8 games, you're averaging 29 on 54% shooting. There is no excuse on God's green earth for this team not to be in the NBA Finals out of the Eastern Conference, plain and simple.
And they wanted to come together. We had Woj earlier saying that this was hatched sort of over the summer. Harden and KD want to come together. So that means we would think that they would each be willing to sacrifice the way they will need to on the floor for each other. How do you see that? What
I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned about that at all. I don't think that James Harden gets enough credit for, even though he dribbles a lot and what have you, because he had the luxury of being able to do that in Houston. This dude can register assists even out of shape and not playing aggressively. He still left Houston averaging 24 and 10. You know, in the first few games, this brother is that guy. He can play the point guard spot. He can play off guard. And with Kevin Durant, if there is a reason to be unselfish, he would be the reason, because he's one of the most unselfish offensive superstars you've ever seen. The issue is Kyrie Irving. We don't know where he's at physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. We don't know where the hell Kyrie Irving is, figuratively and literally. And as a result of that, that's going to be a huge question mark. That's one of the biggest reasons why they went about the business of going all in with James Harden yesterday, because you don't know what's going to happen with Kyrie Irving. We don't even know if he's going to be there. I've heard NBA folks talk to me yesterday. They said to me, listen, Kyrie keeps this up, Brooklyn might be in a position to void his contract. Now, he's not stupid. He ain't going to walk away from $33 million, $35 million next year, and then after that, a player option for $36 million. But they are not pleased with what's going on with him right now. He's got to get his act together, because if he doesn't, and Kevin Durant sits up there and says, hey, man, we got to move forward, then it's going to be about Kevin Durant and James Harden.
Allie, I want to keep it here if I can. We were going to go over to the Urban Meyer stuff. Again, the latest on Urban Meyer is we're waiting to see if he gets
By the way, there's nothing to get into today. Urban Meyer, congratulations. They've made one playoff appearance since 2007. They're lucky to have Urban Meyer. Good luck. You got a task ahead of you. He can handle it. End of discussion.
Fair enough. Okay.
Jacksonville.
But I want to stay here because you said, and it got a lot of attention yesterday, that you believe if Kyrie's head just isn't in it, which it doesn't appear to be, that he should just retire. What was your thinking there?
He should retire, because he's not prioritizing basketball. He's not prioritizing doing his job. Greeny, you have a great show in the morning right now with Get Up. I do First Take. You know what? We get paid for a reason. It's not just because of our ability to perform on the air. It's because we're trustworthy. Kevin Durant's got his contract. James Harden's got his contract. You got superstars like LeBron James and others. Why? You have to prove that you're trustworthy, that you're going to show up to work. And when we look at superstars, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, these guys, the one good thing you can say about them, they love ball and they're going to show up to play. What is Kyrie Irving doing? We don't know. We're hearing that the media are peons. We're hearing that, he's just on a level intellectually. There were so many more important things going on, et cetera, et cetera. Well, every word that comes out of his mouth from the opening tap with the media, he's been basically saying basketball is not that important. It's not a priority, but you got your hand out for your money. It does not work that way. You have to show up. The city of Brooklyn, listen, they got a lot of folks in there that are doing well, and then you have other folks that are impoverished. We understand it. Kyrie Irving, very philanthropic, very charitable, a good dude, heart's in the right place. But the reality is that despite all the things that's going on in this world, when it comes to Brooklyn, they want to see that man at the Barclays Center. They want to see him performing on that court with Kevin Durant. They're excited about the possibilities, and you got to show up. And if you're going to give the impression that it's not a priority, then why should I pay you for something that's not important to you? Go on and do what you got to do, and then come back, unretire when you're ready to commit yourself the way that you're going to admit it. But until then, he should not be a part of this team if he doesn't want to be a part. He's healthy enough to play, and he's not playing. What possible excuse is that when you didn't play since February 1st? You got injured. You had the right shoulder injury. You've been out all of these months. You weren't around in the bubble. Now you come back, and then you don't want to play for personal reasons while you seen partying with family members and friends. Nah, ain't nobody got time for that. Go on.
I have to let you go because first take is coming up, but just super quickly, do you have any sense of how long the Nets are willing to let this go?
I do not. I do not, but I would tell you that he's lucky. He's lucky it ain't me. He's lucky. I'm not Sean Marks. Listen, I'd have Kevin Durant offer, yo, man, come here, man. Let me talk to you, KD. How long we got to deal with this? Because he here because of you. If you didn't want him here, he wouldn't be here because we were cool. We got Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert. We were cool, all right? But we want you so bad. How long we got to deal with this? Because I need a window. Because after that window, he lucky. I ain't the owner. Please, Kyrie, I'd give him till the weekend because he's healthy. Now, if he's injured, that's different. He's healthy. He'd have until Sunday night. Monday.
They hope a big three with Harden's former teammate Kevin Durant and of course Kyrie Irving, and that's the big X factor in all of this. But Woj, let's start with just how this deal got done.
Well, listen, this was an idea hatched by both Kevin Durant and James Harden in the offseason when they were together playing pickup daily in Los Angeles. And James Harden went to the Rockets. He asked for the trade, said he wanted Brooklyn. He eventually expanded the list to 4 teams, but really the focus was Brooklyn and Philadelphia. And those were the 2 teams over the last 48, 72 hours before the trade that Houston was really focused on in trade talks. But ultimately for the Nets, their willingness to deliver Houston a multitude of first-round picks, 4 picks in all, including one that'll come from Cleveland, which is Milwaukee's first-round pick in 2022. That ultimately got the deal done, and now Brooklyn reunites. James Harden and Kevin Durant, obviously, they played together in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, went to the finals together once upon a time in OKC with Russell Westbrook as a part of that team as well. And just very quickly, what, if anything, does this mean as far as the Kyrie Irving situation is concerned?
Well, it means that Brooklyn now, with all 3 players eligible for free agency after next season, I think they can sleep a little better knowing that Kevin Durant, who is the focus of this organization, who they want to build it around, continue to build it around, that he has somebody in James Harden that they believe they can count on moving forward, and they hope that Kyrie Irving is a part of that too. But they need it as much as anything to be able to solidify Durant's future. And there is uncertainty right now about Kyrie Irving. He remains away from the team. There hasn't been significant communication between he and the team, and there's a lot of talking that's going to have to go on once he returns or as he returns. And I think for the Nets, not just having these 3 stars, but I think solidifying their future with Kevin Durant.
All right, we'll see where that goes. Woj, outstanding. Thank you. Let me now bring in Richard Jefferson, who knows all about playing on great teams, who played with Kyrie Irving in Cleveland, and you also work with the Nets and doing some of their games, so you know the ins and outs there. Let's live in a world where the 3 of them do come together first. Let's talk about that trio if they do play together. Can they win a championship this year?
I'm going to say they have a very good chance. I do believe that they could win a championship if we're talking about James Harden getting back in championship shape. If Kyrie Irving coming back and has the right, mentality and the right spirit to compete at that type of level. Because when you're trying to win a championship, it takes 100% of your focus, everything you eat, the way you sleep, everything that you think about. So if Kyrie Irving's, mind or spirit or whatever it is not in that place right now for whatever reason, then that's going to be very difficult. If James Harden stays in kind of in the shape that he's in right now, that's going to be very difficult. But if they come back and they all get physically and mentally right, then they're going to be a force to reckon with.
Well, let's talk about what they will look like together on the floor. KD and Harden, of course, they played together. We just heard Woj say that the two of them sort of orchestrated this. They wanted to play together. How do they work together now? We know KD is the most prolific scorer of his generation, and obviously Harden dominates the ball. How do they play together now?
Well, it's all about sacrifice. Whenever, Kevin Durant says that he's going to go to Golden State, or LeBron James and Chris Bosh say they're going to go to Miami, or you get Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett going to Boston. Whenever you get these big threes, the first thing that you need to say is that there's going to be sacrifice. I'm going to have to average 25 instead of 35 if I'm James Harden. And a lot of it is going to be because some nights you should be blowing out teams, so you shouldn't be playing that much in the fourth quarter. This is a very different big three than we've seen in a long time. Even the one in Golden State, when you're talking about Clay, Steph, and Kevin Durant, they were all ball movers. They were shooters. They would run around and play off the ball. And you had guys that could feed them easy jump shots, and you couldn't double anywhere. Where these three players are all very, very good ball dominant players. So they're all going to have to tweak their game, shoot some more spot up shots. That's going to be the key thing. And last thing, if you're going to win a championship, even with a great offense, you need great defense. The Nets were already, in a kind of a struggle in their defensive area. That was probably the one area that they want to improve on. So adding James Harden to that, obviously that's not a defensive improvement, it's an offensive improvement, but that's one of the areas that they'll need to address down the stretch.
Yes, no one has ever said, we got James Harden, our defense is going to be terrific. So let me then go to you on Kyrie. You played with him in Cleveland, and so you know him. It's such an understandable situation right now for so many people. What is your best sense of where this thing goes?
I truly and truly don't know. And I stand by this. You look at all the WNBA players that took time off to focus on social injustice. You look at all the NBA players that chose to not go into the bubble for, whether they just didn't have it in them. They just didn't, there was just too much going on. There was other areas that they wanted to focus in on. If Kyrie Irving wants to focus on something other than basketball, and he wants to focus on social injustice, if he wants to focus on social change, we 100% support him. The one issue is that there has to be 100% transparent communication. Kyrie Irving, even himself, donated $1 million to the WNBA fund to help pay for some of the salaries of the women that were sitting out to fight change. So we fully support Kyrie in that. But you can't have your head coach that you endorse sit down after you not show up for game one and have him say, well, I haven't spoke to Kyrie. I reached out to him. I haven't heard anything back.